I have some work for you to do. You're going to sit down and do it. We're going to build some landing pages. I'm going to show you to do it, but you're going to do the work. And this is not school. If you need to get up, go outside and go for a walk for 10 minutes, you go. If you need to go to the toilet, you go. I don't want to hear anyone ask for permission. This is not school. This is not school. Hey, it's Alan here, and I want to talk about John Taylor Gatto, reading the book Weapons of Mass Instruction. And I'm reading this book, and as I'm reading, a lot of it is what's wrong with the current education system. And what I'm interested in is, how do we have a better education system? We all know there's problems with the current one. How do we create a better education system? And none of this is directly from the book. It's just out of my head, but it's John Taylor Gatto's words, really, because it's from reading him, what I would believe he would say. And so there's a couple of things. Number one, we need to, today in the AI world, we need to help kids think critically. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean when you think critically? When you think critically. Thinking critically is about taking ownership. It's about taking responsibility. It's about sometimes admitting you're wrong. It's about being okay to be wrong and making mistakes. Okay to make mistakes. So, when you think about your own kids and they're growing up, how do we deal with them when we're talking to them? Give you one quick example. I believe in God. I believe God is self-evident because I believe consciousness proves God. And some of my kids believe in God like I do, and some of them don't. But when they talk to me about that, when we have discussion from time to time, but when we have a discussion about that, I have never, ever, ever said, God exists. I know that's a fact. I don't want to hear questions about that. What I always say is, what do you think? What do you think? And they'll tell me what they think. And I'll say, well, what about that's interesting, right? But what about the problem of consciousness? What do you think about the problem of consciousness? Science can't explain consciousness. And we'll discuss that. I'll say, what about the problem of the Big Bang? The Big Bang has as much evidence as God created it. It's about the same amount of evidence as God created it. And what about the beauty? What about when you're in the woods and you suddenly focus in on one leaf and you see that beautiful green leaf and you see the sun shining down and God's energy coming out of it? What about that? And I'm not going to convince them. And I'm not trying to convince them. I'm trying to have a conversation where I may be wrong and they may be wrong, or maybe neither of us are wrong. Maybe it's all about subjective experience. But what I'm trying to get from that is that they think about the problem critically. So, and they take responsibility. So it's like when a doctor says, well, I think that you have this disease and you should take this course of action. Or you go to a dentist and the dentist says, well, you've really got to take that tooth out. Now, when that's said, we need to recognize that they have a certain level of experience. And professional advice is a valuable thing. But at the same time, you are the master of your ship. Like, for example, Steve Jobs had cancer. And he didn't go straight for the surgery. He went for some other things. And maybe he died too early because he didn't go for the surgery straight away. Or maybe he died the way he wanted to die. Maybe he died the way he wanted to die. He never said he made a mistake. That's subjective. That's subjective. When is the right time to die? Who knows? That's completely subjective. But he made the decision. He took the professional advice, but he made the decision. So big part of thinking critically, and this is what John Taylor Gatto would say, big part of thinking critically is not following orders. And it's exactly the opposite of what school teaches you. School teaches you that we need to follow orders. They say this, we do this. We ask permission to go to the toilet. We ask permission to leave the classroom. But, what if? What if? I remember when I ran a business at a time, my kids, I brought my kids in to work with me, and I had to tell them. When he sat down, I said, like, I have some work for you to do. You're going to sit down and do it. We're going to build some landing pages. I'm going to show you to do it, but you're going to do the work. And this is not school. If you need to get up, go outside and go for a walk for 10 minutes, you go. If you need to go to the toilet, you go. I don't want to hear anyone ask for permission. This is not school. This is not school. And I'm going to show you what you're going to do, and you're going to work it out. You're going to think critically about it and work it out. And I'll be here to advise you. If you don't know what to do or are not sure, I'll be here to advise you. But you're going to be sitting there and working it out. And when you hit a roadblock, come and talk to me. But you're going to work it out. And I think this thinking critically is something that's going to be so important in the age of AI. The order followers, AI can do that. AI can follow orders. AI is great at that. But it's the critical thinkers. It's the people who will keep going until they hit a roadblock and even push through that roadblock. It's the people who will use AI, argue with AI, bring the best out of AI. They're the people who are going to push this thing forward. The order followers are the people who are waiting for instructions. They're no good in the age of AI. They're a waste of time in the age of AI. We need to be creators. We're here to be creators. We're on this earth to be creators. And your kids cannot create unless they can think critically. And they cannot think critically unless you direct them that way and ask them questions and ask them to work it out themselves. And when you have a problem, you tell them to go and solve the problem. And if they hit a complete roadblock where they can't move forward, then you help them. But you don't help them until they can't move forward. So thinking critically, it's going to be so important. John Taylor Gatto was talking about this 30, 40 years ago. The book's upside down. John Taylor was talking about this 30, 40 years ago. Thinking critically. Teach kids how to think critically. Now, he did things that I would have, even for me, were a bit too dangerous, like sending two girls across New York by themselves on the bus. For me, that's me. Young girls, I don't know how old they were. But I'm from reading the book, I think they were about 11 or 12, which is just too young for me. I'd probably say 15-year-olds. But I think 11 or 12 was just too young. So I'm very, very not risk averse, but I'm a little bit more risk averse than John Taylor Gatto was. I think that's very dangerous. But it's about helping kids think critically and solve their own problems. It's going to be so important. The day of the order follower is gone. That was yesterday. Today is the day of the critical thinker who can forge their own path. This has been Alan here. So I want to talk about John Taylor Gatto and his idea around critical thinking, how important critical thinking is going to be in the next 100 years.